A very warm welcome to all of you to Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond podcast, and this is your host, Dr. Vignesh Devraj. In today's episode, we are going to deep dive into the dosha of Kapha. Now, in the previous episode, I gave a brief overview of what are doshas and why it's important to know your doshas. And let us not be married to the idea that I need to know what type I am. Instead, let's look at why are these triggering you and what can you do for it and how can you reverse it. So today we will go deep dive into Kapha dosha. The word Kapha, it actually comes from Slish Alingane. Slish Alingane actually means that which keeps things together. Like for example, some of the examples of that which keeps things together. Something that which is oily will keep things together. It's very sticky in nature. Glue keeps things together. So in our body, the mucus lining or the cholesterol or anything that which is fatty in nature keeps and adheres things together. It actually sticks and binds things together. So this is what Kapha does. Kapha gives the structure for the body. And it is a combination of two elements, that is earth and water. So when Kapha goes up in a person, that person's body weight will go up. The body weight, people, today they talk a lot about the body mass index. Sometimes a person's body mass index can be not just because of the fat, it can also be because of the bone weight and also the muscle weight. If you see some of the top bodybuilders, maybe they have very less fat, but their muscle mass and the bone weight can be so high. But as per the body mass index, they could be put under the category of obese people. So it's not just about the fat percentage, but it's also about if there is too much of excess fat, like visceral fat, or, there is a beer belly, we call it. That means the bad kapha is very high in the body. So kapha is that which gives the structure, the heaviness, the body weight, and all the bones, the muscles, the tissues, and the whole binding, the fascia. All of this is the nature of kapha. And when kapha becomes less, that means the dryness can go up in the body. Like the lubrication is what is kapha. And when you overuse it, the lubrication can come down. It's just like, in a cycle, when you ride it too much without servicing it, then it can become dry. And when it becomes dry, it has a tendency to become brittle or even break. So that is why kapha helps to sustain the structural form of the body. And in a way, it will also help with the good mobility. So good structure is very important. So in fact, the word guru, we also say the word guru is somebody who can guide us or teach us. So there are multiple meanings for the word guru. Guru means that which help to remove the darkness. In fact, the word guru actually means that which is heavy in nature. Guru means heavy. And why is a teacher called as guru, that which is heavy? Because guru means that which gives you an anchor, that which gives you stability. Because only when you have stability, you're able to focus on things. But if you're moving all over the place, you get lost, you're always confused, and you keep thinking what to do next, or did I miss something, because you're not able to focus on one thing. That is why guru is someone who gives you stability and clarity. So that's why, and that is coming from kapha. So there is kapha in the body and there is kapha in the mind. Sometimes too much of kapha can lead to overweight. Too much of kapha in the mind can lead to depression also, because you're so lost in that idea that it has to be like that, but it is not becoming like that. And good kapha in the mind is joy, fulfillment. And the good kapha in the body is what we call it as ojas, that vitality, that inner glow that you see in people. That is good kapha. And the bad kapha is what we call ama. Now, if you look at it from a biomarker part, like if you do a body scan, if the belly fat is high, bad kapha is high. And if you do a lipid profile test, the cholesterol, triglycerides, the low density lipoprotein, if these are very high, that means the kapha is very high. And kapha is that has the potential to create blocks in the body. So in Ayurveda, there are multiple causes for a disease. And one of them, there is this concept called srotas. Srotas are the channels, like arteries is a channel through which blood flows. Arteries, veins, and your gut is a srotas. It's a channel through which you pass the food, and through that channel, food passes and the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream and the waste are eliminated through the colon. So these are channels. When kapha tends to go out of control, it has a tendency to block the channels. It can create a traffic block. So in fact, if you look at heart bypass or cardiac arrest, all these are happening because of the plaque. Plaque is there is an excess formation of some kind of a mucus lining that blocks the natural flow of energy or any kind of liquid. So cardiac arrest means the coronary artery, it is having a block, and this leads to not proper flow of blood, and this leads to improper functioning of the heart, and that can lead to arrest, and that can lead to even death later on. So that's why when the kapha goes out of control, this can lead to severe problems. So some people can be born with an inheritance of excess kapha. Now another, when I spoke about the blood markers, if the eosinophils are very high, eosinophil is one of the parts of the blood count when you do the white blood cells. And eosinophils, if it is too high, that means the tendency of having allergic reactions are very high. They tend to produce a lot of mucus. So this is one way to understand if the tendency of kapha is high in a person. And accordingly, we have to do the reverse. So these are the certain characteristics of kapha being high in the body. When kapha is very low in the body is quite weak. When there is too much of dryness in the body, and the body feels not heavy, it is very light. Light to such an extent, yes, you need lightness with, you see, we love to get on an airplane, even though it is going to fly, but we know that it is going to ground safely. It is going to land safely. That ability to land safely is what gives us the peace of mind to enter the flight. But if you know it's going to fly, but we don't know if it's going to land or not, nobody will want to fly. So that is why that grounding, at the same time, it is giving you, see, the strength with mobility. That is what matters. So kapha is that, good kapha is that strength that gives you mobility. The bad kapha is that strength which is making your mobility very difficult. It makes you stiff. Then also it's not good. So this is a very brief way to understand what is kapha in your body. And if you look at it from a mental point of view, when people are so stuck, so stubborn, on one hand, we say that kapha is that which gives you stability. When too much stability can also make you get stuck. So you need stability, at the same time you need to have that little buffer space where you can move around and explore. But if it is not stable enough and you wander all the places, that's why the anchor of the ship, sometimes you need to put the anchor so that you don't just drift away. So that thing in your mind, when you're able to focus and when you're able to be stable and stay focused on one thing, that is the kapha in the mind. So this is where kapha in the body and the mind happens. Now if you look at the ecosystem, certain food, certain practices and certain environments can increase or decrease the kapha. For example, if you go to some of the top two qualities of kapha is it is cold and moist. Like moist means like it is oily in nature. So if you go to a very cold climate and if it is very dry, the humidity levels are very low. That means in this place, yes, cold is a part of kapha, but the dryness can make your kapha low. You will have a lot of dryness issues. But in some places you see people say tend to have a lot of oily skin. So this is when oiliness can go up. So that in those areas your kapha tendencies can go up. And if you tend to eat a lot of heavy food, like too much of gluten, milk, sugar, anything that which is sweet in nature or salty in nature, this has a tendency to increase your kapha in the body. Like if you eat a lot of sugar and salt, your body can retain a lot more water and you tend to look quite puffy. It's quite natural. You see suddenly when people tend to eat a lot of sugar or even drink alcohol, they tend to have a puffiness. And this is because of the excess kapha that can happen in the body. And excess mucus load in the body is excess kapha. See, we need mucus. There is a mucous lining. We call it mucus lining because it has to have a little bit element of mucus. But if the mucus is more, it tends to create a block. It doesn't serve the purpose of having it. So it needs to go through that sweet spot where there is enough mucosal lining so that there is no friction because of the dryness. It is oiliness so that it gives you a smooth flow. But if there is too much of mucus, it can create a block. It can stick. It can become very sticky. So that's why bringing down the excess mucus load is one of the anti-kapha therapy. So let's say in a blood test, you see that the low density lipoprotein LDL is very high or triglycerides are very high. This could be a potential precursor for a heart problem, or there could be a the normal flow of the blood can be hampered. So that person needs to cut down on excess fat or fatty food or food that has too much of trans fat. I mean, sometimes we need fat, we need good fat, but fat that is falling under the nature of trans fat, this can lead to a lot of problems. This can increase the triglycerides. So they should avoid eating junk food. In fact, they should eat healthy fat. And the other way, if there is excess of mucus tendencies, they say that I'm having asthma or I'm having blocked nose, then maybe drinking milk has to be considered. See, milk as such, some people say, is milk bad or good? It depends on the person's condition. I've seen people who drink milk and are super healthy, and I've seen people, especially when they change the geographic location. I've seen some Indians after they migrate to a Western country, and the milk there can be quite different, and suddenly once they consume that milk, and over 2 to 3 years, they tend to develop lactose allergies. And they tend to have a lot of mucus problems. So this is because of this shift in they grow up using a particular kind of milk, and then they change, and then the tendency of the milk can be different. So this can also lead to that. And if they eat a lot of sugar tends to increase your mucus, sugar tends to increase your kapha. So accordingly, once you know this is what is high, you turn around things. And in Ayurveda, therapies like Panchakarma, like Nasyam, Vamanam, in which I have done some episodes on Panchakarma. You can listen to it so that you'll get more clarity on that. So this will help to bring down the excess kapha in your system. So kapha is not just the mucus. Kapha is the tendency of your body to produce mucus. Tendency of your body that you end up consuming too much sugary, sweet or milky stuff that ends up in creating a lot of mucus. So some people, they tend to have they always tend to have too much of hoarseness because of the mucus lining. They have blocked nose, they snore, and they have dandruff, they have flakiness. So all these conditions fall under the kapha problem. And sometimes water retention in the body, too much excess weight in the body. All this falls under excess kapha. The good kapha is what we call as ojas. And kapha, when it goes out of control, is what we call ama. These are two ways to understand. So when you see people see kapha you could have kapha dominant in your body, but in your gut it could be something else. And you could have kapha dominant in your gut, and you could have something completely different in your body and in your mind. So I always try to look at it in 3 distinct ways. What is the dominant one in your body? What is the dominant one in your gut? And what is the dominant one in your mind? So in your gut, if kapha is high, you tend to have heaviness after food, and your appetite will be very high. Like you can eat a lot. You have a voracious appetite. And you could also have a very erratic bowel movements. Sometimes, they are not able to go on a regular schedule. Sometimes they need to use laxatives, or they need to drink too much coffee, or some people say I need to smoke a cigarette to eliminate. These all are excess kapha in your gut. And kapha in the mind is when you're fulfilled, joyful, happy, and the other side is grief, sadness, and depression. All this falls under that category. So when kapha is high in your body, you tend to exercise better. You need to reduce your excess sweet or heavy to digest food. When kapha is high on your gut levels, again, avoid trans fat food that are very high in calories and which is not healthy. And when kapha is high on your mind with depressive tendencies or grief, maybe there is a lot of requirement of checking with your reality, what is happening. Maybe a lot of movement will help. Exercise also will help you with, exercise is one of the best underrated antidepressants. So like this, and there are multiple Ayurvedic therapies and medications. If you consult a good Ayurvedic practitioner, this will help you to go through this. So this is a brief idea of what is kapha.